this is plausible. This could be, similar to what they've described in the Book of Mormon. So, one of those faith promoting things. I'm not saying it's 100%. This whole complex dates towards the tail end of Nephite civilization. Like the earliest inhabitants in this area was right around 700 AD. Roughly 100 years after end of. Well, I guess it was 400 AD, the end of the Book of Mormon, 600 BC to 400 AD. So you got a few hundred years.
And they had cast up dirt round about to shield them from the arrows and the stones of the Lamanites. For behold, they fought with stones and with arrows. Now we know these scriptures. We've read them all of our lives. Okay, folks, welcome back once again to the program. I have a noteworthy, exceptional, singular, outstanding guest today. I
like the intro though. That's
who calls? Who's Mr. Producer? Who always says that? That's Mark Levin.
There you go.
Jumpin' Jay Johnson, aka the producer, lives in the Ogden area of Utah and works in the IT industry. He is my Mr. Producer. He is the one that introduced me to Joel Skousen. He's introduced me to Rod Meldrum. And that's why I get these guys, because of this guy that you are looking at right in front of you. He is a student of all things gospel related and has a strong testimony of the Savior. Jay is involved in and defending liberty and teaching and sharing those principles. Jay is a presenter at the Firm. You guys know what Firm is, right? And if they don't, we'll leave the link, right? We have the link.
Yeah.
The Firm Foundation conferences, and has done presentations on the Reformation, Pilgrim's Plymouth versus Jamestown, righteous societies versus wicked societies, and your favorite man and mine, Klaus Schwab, and the and the WEF, the World Economic Forum, which is an oxymoron, or
you will eat the bugs.
Yes, you will eat the bugs and you will enjoy them.
Yes, or nothing. You like it.
Bug sandwiches are very good.
In spite of me not eating them myself.
Okay. So what is the Firm Foundation, real quick, Jay?
So it's the Rod Meldrum's Book of Mormon Evidence conference that they hold twice a year, and usually in around April and again in October. It kind of coincides with the general conference timeline within a week or two. I can't remember the exact acronym for what it stands for, but needless to say, a Firm Foundation.
Yeah.
But,
okay. So
fantastic testimony building opportunity for people to learn and just gain a lot of knowledge in a lot of different fields that they cover in that splendid conference.
Remind me to leave the link in the descriptions field.
Copy that.
Now, Jay is married to his awesome wife, Melody, who is a rock star of an amazing wife, mother, and grandmother. They have two terrific daughters, one son-in-law, and the cutest granddaughter you have ever seen. Okay, Jay.
That's the truth.
Yeah. So Jay is not new to me. I speak to Jay often. He is the guy that sets a lot of my interviews up and does a lot of the inquiring for me, and is a Heartland enthusiast and also a Heartland. He's knowledgeable about it. And I just did a video recently. How do you pronounce the name of the place?
Cahokia.
So what are we talking about specifically today? Are we talking just about Cahokia?
Yeah, kind of. I was able to go back there 2 years ago on a business trip, and I'll give you a cliff notes of what I really did. I flew in on a Monday, got into St. Louis Airport, flying from Salt Lake, landed like at 2:00, got the rental car at 2:30, and I didn't have to report to the office until Tuesday morning. So I immediately got in the car, no potty stops, no nothing, no stopping at Maverick for a soda, and busted it for 2.5 hours north to get to Carthage jail. Right before I was in the last tour group that went through, about like 10 minutes before 5 o'clock when it closes, and was able to go up there and see that because I had never been there. So I was able to get the tour with the missionaries there, and drove over to Nauvoo, which is like a 10 or 12 mile drive, not very far from Carthage. Was able to see Nauvoo, and then when I was down in St. Louis area, went over to Cahokia one night after work and had heard about this through the conference in one of the either Wayne May or Rod Meldrum or Jonathan Neville lecture on it, and some of the amazing things that they brought up in it. And so I wanted to go over there and witness it and see it, and just tour it. And so the structure itself, just to give people some background on it, is located about I'd say it's probably like 10 miles east of the St. Louis area. If I can do a screenshot share with you, Troy, I can show kind of what it looks like from there's a 100-foot mound, which is the major mound in the complex that people often talk about. And let's see, are you seeing that?
Mm-hmm.
There? Okay. So that's looking west, and you can see the Gateway Arch there and the St. Louis skyline over there looking west. And so kind of gives you an idea of the proximity there of, and just, if you look at the arch there in the picture, just maybe a few hundred feet away from the base of the arch is the Mississippi River. And just a few miles north of St. Louis is the convergence of the Missouri River and the Mississippi River. And so I think it was in your broadcast prior on Cahokia earlier in this week that the presenter in one of the videos was talking about the number of population that was in that area, like around 50,000 people anciently that were in that area. And specifically like in the Cahokia main area around the mounds over where that picture's coming from, they estimated between 20 and 30,000 people had inhabited that area. So just to kind of give you kind of the geographic lay down here, and the height of this mound, again, I'm taking it from, it's kind of a 2-terraced mound, and it's 100 feet tall. And it's
now
an
this is the one
structure
that had what looked like an amphitheater kind of embedded in it.
No,
well,
this
kind of looked
like
like it from an aerial view. Is that the same one?
Yeah, I mean, it looks terraced on there, where you could probably have people assembled on there. I didn't know. I don't know. I haven't researched it deep enough to know of an amphitheater being on there.
Well,
but this
no,
was
I
the
mean,
top.
it just looked like it. It looked like there was like little columns, like 3 different sections of columns, something in the ground. I don't know.
Yeah, it's got the terrace. I mean, it's a terrace that's got they've developed it with a nice staircase going up it. I'll show a picture of that in just a second. But
well, let me ask you something just real quick, if I
yeah.
So why is this so? So I just did a video on it. By the way, I'd like to get Wayne May on. We could do that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Do you know him?
I've been to his thing. I've got a signed book from him. I've talked to him many
times.
Get
him on. I'd like to have him on.
I mean, he wouldn't know me from the hundreds of other people that gather there.
Yeah, but you can just tell him that Rod and others have been on.
Yes. We'll get him. I'll line it up for you, brother.
So why is this so? Why is this of interest to Heartlanders? This place.
This place specifically, the thing I enjoy most about Cahokia is, a lot of people say, well, there's no evidence of cement in like the Heartland model, or that's kind of one of the big arguments, that there's no evidence of cement, and specifically in one of the presentations from Rod, he kind of addressed that. And so I wanted to go there and see this, and let me switch. I'm going to switch off the share, and I'll pull up another image here. And so at this place, they do have a cement. And wow. I was struck to see it and witness it. And so one of the early archaeologists as they were surveying this thing, this whole structure, we're able to see where the ground had been disturbed around like a 2.5 mile perimeter going around the structure. And so what they've done is they found evidence of pickets being in there. So if you imagine if you remember like Rin Tin Tin or any of the John Wayne movies where they have the log fort with the pickets sticking up with the pointy tips.
Right.
Yeah. So they.
Well, that's what I said. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
no, you're good.
That's what I said. I said the guy in the video never mentioned. And if you guys want to watch the video, I'll put this in that playlist, and I'll link that video that I just did about Cahokia. But remember the guy in the video. Nobody ever mentioned anything about it being maybe a fort or a stronghold or like a place where, like the forts during the Civil War and the battles with the Native Americans.
Like Fort Apache,
Fort Leavenworth. Is that what you're talking about? Like kind of like that?
Yeah.
So I felt like I was the only one that felt like that maybe that was a stronghold and or maybe like Moroni's building up fortifications.
Yeah. You showed that thumbnail in your presentation that you could show again, and I will show you some pickets here, and I've got to transfer that image from my phone.
Oh, that's like a picture. That's not real.
Yeah, that's the sundial clock. One they call it.
Not these, right?
Yeah, that's it. But there's a section of it
those are the original.
No, they're not original. They put them in the places where
they would have been, right?
Where they found traces of.
So this was a fort. This was a fortress. This was a fortification for war.
Exactly. So this is looking the other direction. So the first shot we showed was from looking from the top of that hill to St. Louis. This is looking the opposite side of the hill down onto the state park there, and you can see the pickets down there. So if you picture that Fort Apache or your favorite John Wayne movie where they're in a fort, you can see the logs over there on the left-hand side of that photo are kind of the grayish structure there. But the other half of that is the finished form of what the fence looked like. They call it the stockade, but it was 2.5 miles long of that, but it was covered with a cement-like adobe that they've got evidence in those disturbed grounds of the perimeter of where that ran. And they would replace those logs. They estimated it was between 15 to 20,000 logs made up that the 2.5 mile fence perimeter, place of resort, you could say, using some Moroni terminology there. Not saying that this is a place of resort, but it is using that same building philosophies and structures of the pickets described. But and then if you wanted to go to that closer up photo of the kind of the difference between that cement covering and just the bare logs themselves. Is that the
themselves. One with not this one, is it?
That's inside. I can talk that one. So that's kind of like what would be an entryway into the facility, but it's got some depth in there, so they could have sentries up above, and if it was a person that shouldn't be in there, they would be able to stop them from coming into the complex. So this is almost like a fortification. It's almost like when you're reading the Book of Mormon and Moroni's. Who else described war stratagems? Yeah, exactly.
Was it Helaman? Moroni, and others, where they're talking about keeping up mounds of earth. It's almost like they're describing what's going on here.
Yeah, the places of resort, and so
they mention wood, and they mention dirt, and they mention maybe there was some concrete, right? You said there was concrete usage here,
right? And so the outside of it has a concrete I guess like an adobe concrete kind of a coating on the outside that would keep it from being able to, an enemy from being able to burn through those log pickets. And so if you've got that photo of that closer up view of that.
Yeah.
But this might be a place of resort. I mean, with the way that entry's built with some strategery in mind, being able to make it a fortification that can be defended, from entry of people they don't want in there. But so it's an impressive structure. They've only recreated a small section of the 2.5 miles. That's it.
Okay. Now, what are we looking at here? Now, these are just remakes, right?
So they found the early archaeologists had found this perimeter of dirt that had been dug, trenched down 4 and 5 feet deep, and found bits and pieces of evidence of log pickets in the shape that was kind of left by the shapes of the logs, and fragments of the adobe-like cement that's on the outside of the structure. And so they've recreated a small section of that 2.5 mile perimeter where they found the disturbed ground with the evidence of them being logs in there. And mind you, those logs are probably 15, 20 feet tall out of the ground, and they're buried 4 to 5 feet deep in the ground. So you just imagine that the work and labor that was involved in building the trenches, harvesting the wood, and you're using,
Right.
primitive axes and stuff. This was an immense effort to do this. And just kind of going back to the hill, but this, when Rod had talked about,
You want me to pull up the hill?
oh yeah, if you show a picture of the hill, yeah. In just talking about this, when Rod talked about evidence of cement and he had shown pictures of Cahokia in one of his presentations, but seeing it firsthand, it was just, hey, this is plausible. This could be, similar to what they've described in the Book of Mormon. So, one of those faith promoting things. I'm not saying it's 100%. This whole complex dates towards the tail end of Nephite civilization. Like the earliest inhabitants in this area was right around 700 AD.
Well, look at this. Right. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. That's kind of looking
AD,
at
what were you saying? 700 AD. They
700
get mad if
AD.
I interrupt you.
No, you're fantastic.
700 AD. These people get mad if I interrupt you. Now, watch, they'll say it in the comment section.
People don't get it helps the person being interviewed to be interrupted and be able to bring up key points. And Troy's doing a good job keeping me on track here.
700 AD.
So,
go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, that what they have estimated is this place started to take off in 700 AD, which is roughly 100 years after end of. Well, I guess it was 400 AD, the end of the Book of Mormon, 600 BC to 400 AD. So you got a few hundred years that may not mesh with Book of Mormon timelines, and they kind of say that these are more of the Mississippian culture that came afterwards that people have talked about, and I believe even the guy that came up from the south. A lot of people say that maybe the Mayans and Aztecs, as they fell.
Yeah, well, look at
north.
this right here. What are we looking at? This isn't an actual photo, but this is a kind of what they drew or painted to depict what was being like in mid building or something.
Yeah, so that structure right there, you can see those lone pickets is a part of the structure there called Woodhenge. So kind of similar to Stonehenge, but they were able to track the seasons, the equinoxes, and track those through the motions of the sun and moon and so forth. And so that's what that is. And I believe there were like 3 of those in that, 3 uses in there. Let's see. I'm okay.
So let me ask you this, and I do have to interrupt Jay sometimes because he'll go on and on and on, and I'll never get a word in edgewise.
That's right.
But he's a good man, and he's full of energy and knowledge. So is that why we kind of think that maybe there are no ruins, because a lot of what maybe the Nephites and Lamanites used were wood and dirt?
Yeah, correct.
And hides maybe. And
right.
But they were highly civilized. This is a highly civilized civilization.
Yeah. These guys are carrying on their tradition of being an agrarian society, growing. They talked about how the corn just grew bountifully for these guys, and the squash, and I'm trying to think of what other things they had there. But they would they were so good at growing corn that they would trade. They became very, very entrepreneurial and would do trade. And they found copper evidence of copper that doesn't come from that region. They've got shells and pearls that come from different areas of the continental United States that are not native to that area, that they have found in the as they've excavated different areas in that Cahokia area. And
Right.
so in driving there, when I drove to Nauvoo from St. Louis, there is just endless cornfields up there. It's unbelievable what they've got in the Midwest, and just the great soils and things that were there, and just the abundance there. And so it's just a great area to be able to do agriculture.
Look at this. Isn't this neat? This is on the church website, Moroni's fortification.
Yeah, there
Does
you
that
see the
look
pickets
familiar?
right there. Yeah, there we go.
The Nephites built fortified strong walls and dug ditches around their cities to protect them from the Lamanite armies. Well, if that's the case, why would they be doing that if they had concrete? Why didn't they build some cement structures if it took place? That's kind of weird too, right? If it took place in Mesoamerica, I've always been a hemispheric guy. Yeah. But let's read just real quick. I want to read a scripture, and it sounds familiar right here. And behold, the city had been rebuilt, and Moroni had stationed an army by the borders. Sorry, let me share this. Oh, can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it.
Oh. And behold, the city had been rebuilt, and Moroni had stationed an army by the borders of the city, and they had cast up dirt round about to shield them from the arrows. And they found lots of arrows there, right?
Yeah.
Lots of. But the guy never mentions the fortifications or being at a military base. That's the first thing that came to my mind. What were they calling it? They were saying it was something else, like maybe some hostel or some place of refuge, though they said, but not really a city. But,
yeah, I mean, the title of that, the title, the name that they kind of give Cahokia is the City of the Sun, and whether that's just because it had the great clocks that track the seasons and the phases of where the sun sits, with the sundial technology of Stonehenge, right. But Woodhenge there.
And they had cast up dirt round about to shield them from the arrows and the stones of the Lamanites. For behold, they fought with stones and with arrows. Now we know these scriptures. We've read them all of our lives. But this kind of stuff, brothers and sisters, makes it real. If they had, back to what I was saying, if they had concrete structures, why would they be building wood? Why would they be taking their time to build these wood fortifications? And then others will say, well, they're in a battlefield somewhere. They're away from their temples and their other structures. Yeah, but it takes just as long to build something of concrete as it did probably these things, right? Because you have to cut the trees down. You got to, right?
Yeah, well, and timber is just all over the place there. I mean, it's the no-brainer. It would be a lot easier than excavating. That central mound, if you show that picture, I saw you flip through pictures there. There's like an aerial photo of the mound. Just to give you kind of what scientists and those scholars that have been researching the Cahokia site, they estimated it took 15 million basket loads of dirt by those individuals, carrying like 50 to 60 pounds in each one of the baskets as they built that structure. And they said it probably took them 300 years to build that 100-foot terraced mound. And so you can see how it's got the two terraces on there. And over on the left-hand side, or excuse me, the right-hand side, is where that picket fence area would be, down off of there. And to the left-hand side, you could look out towards St. Louis area. So it gives you the structure. But yeah, 15 million, baskets full of dirt, 50 to 60 pounds at a time, doing,
well, and all
tremendous earthworks.
And also the Book of Mormon never talks about, well, not that it doesn't have to mention it, but it never talks about concrete structures. It never says something like, and we made our. It never mentions stone or stonery or making things from granite or concrete or cement or anything
Cutting
like that.
stone, yeah.
It's always wood. And then somebody made and dirt, wood and dirt, right?
Yeah.
Now, these could also have been just where they had battles too, and they were maybe heaping up dirt, and maybe some of these mounds were from battles. I don't know. Where do you think the? I always ask other Heartlanders, where do you think the narrow neck of what is the narrow neck of land? Were there many narrow necks of lands? Was that just an expression to mean a passageway, or because it does mention a Nephite being able to travel in a day from water to water, right?
Right. Yeah. So the way I've learned it from like Wayne May and Rod and those guys that have walked that and done a lot of groundwork is up near the Great Lakes areas up there, near the pointy part of New York and across that region up there is kind of where they describe that being, and with that being the last where the great final battles were for both the Jaredites and the Nephites. To me, in reading the narrative of the Book of Mormon and the history there, that just it puts it in that region as they got pushed up towards the northeast of the United States and lapping over into the Canada area up in there.
Would you say? Can you see my cursor? So where's Cahokia? Down here, right?
Well, Cahokia is down. Yeah, it's down.
Mississippi?
It's off screen, down probably about 6 inches or so.
Like over here.
Yeah, it'd be down. Yeah, down farther from there.
So yeah, this could very well be. You know who came up with this idea? My friend Ed Goebel. He did a book with
Okay.
Wayne May. He wrote a book with Wayne May, and he came up with the idea of the Great Lakes being the
Yeah.
passage.
Yeah.
But
Down there
now
on.
he's a Mesoamerica guy. I'm going to
Well,
have him on because he's refuting all this. He goes, you know what? It's if you know what Joseph Smith said about desolation and Zarahemla and where they're at, it wouldn't make sense. I'm like, okay, what do you mean? He goes, bring me on and I'll tell you.
Well, bring him on. I mean, it's great to hear everybody's points and key points and just and learning and just the whole process of learning both sides. I mean, the book itself is the important thing, sharing the gospel of the Savior appearing to these people.
Absolutely.
And teach his teachings, and that's the bottom line. That's the most important thing we've got, and we've got the book. And if we're putting together where this all took place, that reinforces testimony of where it is. I line a few other things up with some of the things that are said in the book about it being a land of liberty and those things. And to me, the Central American model kind of doesn't fit that, and where America, with the founding of it and just the steps that take place from the Reformation to the Pilgrims coming over here, and some of William Bradford's talkings, he's coming over here to establish a new Jerusalem. And those kind of terminologies back when the Pilgrims were first hitting the land, I thought that, it's kind of ironic. I mean, it's pre-Book of Mormon, but
Right.
just kind of irony in some of the things. Oh, that's a fantastic picture there that Chip pulled up there.
So let's talk about this just a few more minutes. Do you have anything else you wanted to talk about, or is this about it? Can I ask a couple questions?
Yeah, shoot.
Do you think the first thing that came to my mind when I reacted to that other guy's video, and I'll leave the link, you guys should watch it. I can't remember the name of it. What is it called? It's just called You Won't Believe It. Is this the best evidence for Moroni's fortifications? And they never mention anything about them being military bases, forts, fortifications, sanctuaries in war. But they show arrowheads, and they show arrowheads from other places that were brought there that maybe they traded with. That could be maybe wars they had with those other people that came there and were warring with them.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It's very interesting.
It's such and you just think of, one of the things that you think about is the intense labor that's involved in building fences. You're not building a small picket fence to just adorn front yard. You're building tall timbers to keep people out.
Right.
There's just so much. 2.5 miles of that kind of a structure. That's tremendous amount of work. By laborers cutting it, shaping them, and I wouldn't want to be if I had to pick something, I'd probably be on the logging team. I don't think I'd want to be the ditch digger digging down 4 or 5 feet, and then you're placing these logs, and you just the work and ingenuity that they had to have to be able to get those lined up and structurally safe.
So is this the mound you're talking about right here?
Yeah. So that's Monk's Mound. It was funny because back in the 1700s, about 1735, there were some French monks that lived up on the mound up there, and basically kind of operated a little trading post for early travelers and people settling out in the area out there. They were I can't remember which particular group of monks they were. They're Catholic monks, but so they ran a little mission type of a thing out there as people crossed in their travels. But
this has been go ahead.
It's a really cool area, and if people get out there to go out to Nauvoo, I think it's well worth their time to go down to St. Louis, if you can fly into St. Louis and see this, and then go up to Carthage and Nauvoo and see some of that church history stuff. It's a cool thing. And then over on Springfield, Illinois side is, Abraham Lincoln's grave and things. So there's a lot of history in that area if you're ever able to get out there to enjoy it.
These definitely replicate. They definitely look and have a feel of fortifications, military forts. If I was reading the Book of Mormon and I saw what was going on there, I would be like, yeah, this is it.
Right. And this was just the largest one. This is the largest one north of Mexico of a archaeological site this big. It's let's see, it's like a 4,000 acres in the whole entire thing. And the state park is like a 2,200 acre area that's been preserved. And the structure has originally had about 120 mounds, they estimate now. And there's about 72 mounds remaining that are protected in those park boundaries.
Wow.
There. So it's a tremendous place. There's like 10 miles of trails that you can go walk around and see all this stuff. And just a
That's
really
so
cool
neat.
area. Whether they say it dates, post Nephite, but if there were smart Lamanites or even Nephites that had, basically converted over to the Lamanite side and denounced Nephites or whatever, they probably used some of the same structures and things that were done in the past with the same tech that they had. And this might be very similar in structure of what Moroni built, if it was farther up north towards the Great Lake in Ohio and up north Illinois area. But yeah, fun to share this stuff. The town it's in is Collinsville, Illinois. And one more fun fact is Cahokia was larger than London in 1250 AD than the size of London. So it was a significant world city at its time.
There's an illustration.
Yeah. And just following up, I looked in the brochure that they provide there at the park. There were five of those wood henge sundials, to be able to track the different seasons and the timings of the phases. So yeah, cool stuff.
Well, and what you're saying is they did work in concrete, just not abundantly.
Yeah. I mean, it's just evidence
that
there was
part of their infrastructures, but it wasn't the primary. It wasn't primary. It wasn't primary, the primary usage.
Yeah, when Rod had talked about it in a thing, because I never had, they talked about the cement in the box that Moroni deposited the plates in, crude cement kind of a thing, so there's, there on those pickets was crude, a crude cement kind of a thing, which would make, that they were using mud mixes, we might call it adobe today or stucco, but it is kind of a rock concrete, substrate kind of a thing. But
yeah. And the people in South America might have been just foreign to them. Maybe they never even, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
But all right. Awesome to talk to you and do a podcast with you, Troy. This is awesome.
Thank you so much, Jumpin' Jay. Keep jumping.
We'll do.
And jamming.
Keep the bounce.
And jogging.
Keep the bounce and the jam in my step.
and be jiffy about it and don't jump too hard and hurt yourself.
No jumping to conclusions.
Yeah. Don't jump to conclusions.
You keep up the great work, Troy. You do great jobs on so many topics.
No jumping to conclusions.
You're a gentleman and a scholar. Sure appreciate you.
My grandpa used to say, you're a gentleman. Well, he wasn't a member of the church, so I won't finish the rest. He'd say, okay, I'll do it. You're a gentleman and a scholar and a fine judge of wine and women.
Oh, there you go. And you've got the finest bumper music in the podcasting industry.
It's called Gotta Keep Going. Actually, I was talking to Andrea today. I want to buy the rights from the artist so that I can make that own. So when I do go out, Jay, right, in the future, we're planning on me coming to Utah and Idaho.
Yeah, we're going to get you and you're going to present at the Firm Foundation Conference.
I think I might do that. And I think I also, I want to, we'll talk about that later. All right. Thank you.
I'll run your security and be your bodyguard.
Yeah. All right. Hey.
Keep back. Troy will sign. He'll sign your merch later. Okay. Stay back. We gotta get him to his next presentation.
All right. Thank you so much.
Hey, you have an awesome day. Appreciate the chance.
Take care, Jay.
Okay, see ya.